Okay, we're continue learning file handling with Go. Last time we checked creating files, writing text into file, appending text to an existing file, overwriting file contents, and closing files. So we completed all this. Now let's look at reading files. Before JSON, understand plain file reads. Read all file as bytes, convert bytes to string, read file line by line, read large files in chunks / buffers, check if file exists before reading. Okay, first read all file as bytes. Let's learn how to do that. How to read a whole file as byte in Go. The easiest way is always read file. We saw open file. Now we're looking at read file. It reads the entire file into memory as a slice byte type. So yep, OS read file. We are reading image PNG image. We get a data which is just bytes. We are handling error, and then data raw bytes, and print length of data, number of bytes. All right, I copied some text from Wikipedia on Golang. So I got some text. Let's read this text. Let's go to the files or file entry file, and okay, we need to use OS read file. Takes the path hello txt. Does it take anything else? Nothing. So this returns data as bytes and error. So let's not handle error for now, and print the error. I mean print the data, and then also print the length of data. So this is gonna be just bytes. This slice of byte. So all right. Yep, this is the raw bytes. So this is essentially, so we got we got 1,145 bytes. How do I do this? So we can convert the data back to string. So we can use like conversion thingy. So string data. Boom, works. We converted bytes to strings. So data is just a slice of byte. We can save it, send it over HTTP, convert to string. If it's text, base64 encode it. I mean, why would we do it? Process binary stuff. Okay, we can do some stuff on the data. Binary is just binary data, right? You can turn it to string. That's what we did. We just converted the data into string. This is a conversion. This converts one data type to another. So we have another style, older style, IO, read all. Useful when reading from streams files manually. So where is read all? So OS open tags test tst uses file, closes the file. So read all takes the file and then returns data, and then we are handling error and we are printing the data. So this is another way to read data using read all and passing the file. Needs a file, not a path. Streams files manually, I don't know. Okay, what not to do, when not to use this. If file is huge, a video or multi-GB file, this loads everything into RAM, then use buffered chunk reading instead. For your file handling learning list, give me whole file as bytes tool. So, yep. So to repeat it, we don't want to use this when the file is very large. And this is gonna dump everything to the RAM, and it's quickly gonna fill up the RAM, and we don't want that. All right, so read whole file as bytes. We got that. And then convert bytes to string. Great, we also got that. And read file line by line. How do I do that? There are two common ways in Go depending on what you want. Buff IO scanner, normal line by line reading, best for most text file. So we open the text, we got a pointer to the file, and then handle error, close the file. Okay, this is where the actual stuff begins. Buff IO new scanner file. Okay, this is something we need to remember. Buff IO file and use a scanner, and we need to call scanner scan. This gives us some sort of iterator or something. That's why we can use it in for loop. And scanner text returns a line, and then we can print the line. If scanner, okay, wait a minute, scanner error. So we got an error. This returns an error if it exists or something. If the error is not nil, so if we have error, we get an error. So basically, this will read the text. So yep, when it's done reading, it should be good, right? For some, yeah. Basically, our job is done at this point if it successfully reads it. Like, I'm gonna assume, I would assume we should check for the error at the beginning before scanning, right? If it has an error, then what's the point of scanning? So that's what I was thinking. So let's do this. Let's use the new scanner. We need to get hold of file. So use OS open file. Maybe, yeah. The last time we used open file, we are using open now. This does not need those 3 arguments, it only needs the path. And then we can use buff IO, new scanner. What's going on? New scanner takes file and returns scanner or something. Not gonna worry about error handling. We then need to use scanner scan returns an iterator. So scanner scan, we can use this in for loop, and we get a line when we call scanner text and print ln line. If we get scanner error, which if scan error is not nil, return, I don't know, dude. Like, what do we return, bro? Error or something. Because the main function does not return anything, I don't know what we are supposed to do here. So we just print something like print ln read error, and then we just print the error. So reading error and then error. All right, let's run it. So we got some error, container list. Whoa, got some imports that I don't need. All right, like, how the hell am I supposed to know which one? Okay, let's see. I'm gonna add. So we get a line. Let's see. We get a index and value from this, right? Expected boolean or something like. So I need to get the index. How do I do that? How do I get the index? Does not return a slice, so you can't use does not return a slice, so you can use for v range on it. Scan just returns a boolean true. Got next line false, done, error. So make your own counter. So yeah, my bad. Scanner scan only returns a boolean, dude. It returns true or false. And yeah, this is just while loop, bro, when we use it like this. This is basically expression. All right, let's just create our own counter, line count. Line count plus 1. Let's see. line count. God damn it, like add new line. Okay. All right, this is one single line and we got empty line. Oh shit, man. Okay, whatever, dude. I need to check if the line, right? The line is not just an empty string. So how do I check if it contains nothing? I only want to process if the text, if there is text. I don't want to process if it doesn't contain any text. How do I know? So basically I want to know the length of the text, right? Length, this is string. Let's see. Before I I want to check how do we know the length of string. So let me just write the function again and then just fmt print ln and length of this. I want to find out the length of this. So yeah, what about now? We still got length, right? How do I trim it? How do I trim it? Or no, it's just empty string. So basically, string as a method called trim space. Okay, can I call the method on this? No. So we are strings trim space text string. Okay, now let's run it. 0. Cool. So that's how you know, how you kind of get differentiate between an empty text and a non-empty text. You just get the length. So that's how I would do it in JavaScript or something. Right now, I don't want to count a line if I don't want to even process this entire code if the length is 0. So length strings trim space All right, let's just put this in front of this. That way we can access it in here. Okay, this is very weird. Like usually in JavaScript, if we have non-negative, like any other value other than like values like 0, undefined bullshit, it would automatically be false. But this would work in JavaScript, but not here, dude. Okay, if so this returns integer, so we if it's greater than 0, then it's true, right? You don't even need clean better line. If strings is not equal to this, if line is not empty after trimming white space. Yeah, we'll use that. We'll use that. If what is that supposed to strings from space line is not equal to this. All right, so we only print it and we only increase it if it's not empty. Cool. We got one line, another line, all these lines. Might as well like trim the line. Strings trim space line. The reason this whole thing spans this whole line as all of this is because, well, if you look at it, this single thing does not have like a new line. Whenever I press enter, it will add a new line character here. So let's add some new lines. Now we should have more lines. So we saw how to read. So what are we doing? So we are just reading lines from the text. So this is one way of reading. Let's see another way. All right, before I look at the other way, I want to create a utility function. Let's call this func read line. Takes just file name and returns error. Let's copy this. If error is if error is not null, we return error. So scanner error, this also throws error, but scanner scans text. I don't know like if it throws an error. This signature says it only returns boolean, and this signature only returns string. This signature returns an error. If what is this? This returns a reference, like a pointer to scanner. Scanner has all these methods and stuff on it. Well, let's also return error. Although I don't know how we um this returns an error, but yep, don't know how to fix it. Let me ask ChatGPT how to fix this. How to fix this? You hard-coded file path function says error return type but never returns and never returns nil. Go requires every code path to return something. So we got the function read line, text file name, returns error. We open this, returns error. Check if it got error, return error, close file, scanner, scan. If error, return error, return nil. So we can return nil even though nil is not an error type or something. I assume because we need to return an error, we can only provide an error type, but we can also provide a nil. So let's just return nil. Also fix the hard-coded value. All right, let's see if it works. Read line hello txt. All right, works. Now we can just move this to our library, our util library. Import strings. Quick fix import. Import. All right, cool. Now this works. We only need to use file utils. And cool. Now everything works. Okay. The another way to read line by line is using the reader method on buff.io. We have come across the reader method on the tour of Go in a tutorial. So that's like that method tells you how to read data. So this gives us some low-level control. So let's go through that. Again, we need file for that. And let's see, buff.io new reader file. So this gives us reader. And then we can do for loop. This reader returns the bytes read and error or something. So that's how you use the reader, right? If you use it, it gives you byte read and error, but we can also use the reader read string method, and that takes a delimiter. So essentially what this is telling is read until you find a new line and then return it. So the return thingy is assigned to the line and error. If it's done reading or something, it returns end of file error or something. So that becomes a non-nil value, and then we break out of the loop. I will check out this later for now, but we will use that method, read string method. So we need an infinite loop, and we call reader read string. This takes in a delimiter. The delimiter we are interested in is new line. Is that the correct way? Returns line or error. If the error is not nil, we break out of the loop. Right now, let's run it. Imported, not used. Cool. All right. So this returned lines, but we don't know what is going on. So we'll do the line counter again. Line counter. Initially 0, starts from 0 for some reason. We want to check if line is not empty. If length string text the we want to find the length of the string. So we use strings method and truncate it. Trunc trim func trim. Okay, we need to use trim space. Trim space line. Okay, we don't want to use the length, although we could, but last time what we did is not, we compared it to empty, like empty string. So we, if it's not empty string, we print it and then we increment the counter. Line counter, we use the ternary operator, and boom, it should work like before. Oops. Okay, we want to also trim the line. You know what? Let's just modify the line. Why? Expected Boolean. God damn it. Oops, what is going on? So I thought I would put up a short expression and a value. All right. What if we use line? What is going on? So what I'm trying to do is assign this value here, and so that way, what am I trying to do? So I don't want to repeat this function call 2 times. So I call this, I assign this, and I then use it here. Let's see how to do this. Why isn't this working? This part is interpreted as interpreted like process this, and then what is going on? Like, okay, process this first, compare this, but returns a boolean. So assign bool to line, but line is a string, type mismatch. Correct Go syntax for if init condition. Okay. All right. So this basically returns a boolean, bro. So we don't want that. So let's just end our short expression here. And then compare the line. Okay. Fine. Okay, now it's working, but we forgot the printing the line counter. Cool. So we basically redid what the scanner did with new reader. Let's see. So this, when we call, doesn't the reader return bytes read and error? Reader itself is not something you can range over. what reader does is an object with methods. You call a method like this. Okay, there's a read method. The read method is the one that returns bytes and error. So this is probably what you're thinking of. Reader read takes a buffer and returns the buffer return read. And if the print if the buffer is the size is greater than 0, read print the buffer byte, and then buffer convert, what is this, buff, only actual bytes read. So for example, if we only want to process buffer, if like you want to process the bytes as a fixed size of buffers instead of delimiters like new line, colon, commas or something, you want to process the data in 1024 bytes chunk, you can use the read method. Let's just read that. Um, I'm going to quickly write the function. All right, this takes in a buffer. So let's create a slice of buffer. We can use make, and this takes a type and the length. All right, now we got a 1024 buffer. This returns the buffers read and error. Let's print buffers read. I don't want to process error. Also print so this overwrites it every time when it reads. We only want to read up to the buffers that gets filled, because the empty sections will have old data. So we need to use the slice thingy that you can do on arrays. So this just returns a raw buffer. I mean, looks like right. So although we were able to read it as buffer, we did not get all the data, so we only got the latest buffer. I only got the latest buffer or something, or do I get the whole thing? You only did one read, so you got up to 1024 bytes once, not the whole file. Means fill buff once with at most 1024 bytes. If the file is 500 bytes, you get all 500 bytes. If it's 1024 bytes, you get all 1024 bytes. 5000 bytes, you get only first 1024 bytes. The rest is still sitting unread in the file. To read whole file in chunks, you need a loop. So we got an infinite loop, and we read it and we print it, and we only break it if the error is a type of, if the error is this type, end of file. Is this a error type? I don't know. So this returns this end of file type. If we got an error, we just print error and we break. So this is just an infinite loop. So we will read it and process it, and read it, process it, read. It's gonna read until we get end of file, basically. All right, let's create the for loop and read it. Read that, and we check if n is greater than 0, and then we print it. If, okay, this returns a error. If error is IO in the file, we break. If error not equal to nil, we break. Let's print ln error reading error break. All right, so what are we doing? So we are trying to get the file handler, and we pass the file handler to the new reader, and we are creating 1024 bytes slice buffer, and then we pass the buffer to the read method, and this read method will fill the buffer with the data. And we are just trying to we are printing the data, we are checking whether we reach the end of file, whether we got error, and we are processing them. All right, this should work. And yep, so basically the file contains less than, I would say, 1500 bytes. All right, so this buffer, we can convert it into strings. So let's just strings. Strings is bro, like strings is okay. So did we mess up spelling strings? What is going on? We are I don't know, like this should work. Why isn't this working? Oh shit. My bad. Okay, we use the strings package. My bad. We are supposed to use the string function. Cool. Like when we read the string and when we got the string, we can process the string with the string methods like we did before. We can trim the string, and we can do this stuff to the string once we converted it to string. So we saw two ways: read string and then the raw read method. Okay, now the question is, how do we convert this into a utility method? Question is how do I convert either the read string or read method way of reading lines to my utility functions? Utility for reading lines, I mean text. Okay, this is different. If your goal is give me lines one by one, return a slice of strings. So what is this doing? This read lines function. So we are keeping the same function name, but we are using different logic. Read lines. Open the file, get the file, close it. Yeah, we have been not closing files lately. And call new reader, read string, and so this is infinite loop, and we are returning the lines. Okay, lines. So we have a var lines, which is a type of, this is basically a slice. And then we are appending to that slice with this process file in pieces. So read chunks, text file name, and chunk size, and we got a process function that takes a byte and returns error. Get the file, close the file, create a reader, create the buffer slice, read into the buffer size, and if we got some buffer, process the buffer, break out of the loop and return nil. So ChatGPT told me to return a slice of string, basically an array of lines, or Wait a minute. We could process the chunk by taking a callback basically. So the read line function, what it does is basically prints the lines. It doesn't do anything. It only has like logic to print each line. That's pretty much it. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't return anything. It just prints the line to the console. Not really useful. You may want to get the lines, right? Why would you read line? You want to get access to the line, right? You want to process the line. So you can use a callback for that, how to process a line. All right, let's do that. This takes a process line, which is a function that gets the data. In our case, it's a string. We'll replace the print line with those. Then we don't need this was purely for cosmetic purposes. I wanted to see the line number, so we don't want a line count, so we won't be using it. Process line takes the line basically. Now this doesn't know what this is not hard coding how to process the line, but instead the caller does everything. Okay. The second parameter is supposed to be function callback. Your code is basically proper. You need to tell what type the data is. So that is not what we. All right. Do we have any other error? We got a bunch of errors. These errors are basically we are not doing anything with those imports. We have another error. Not exactly error. Okay, we are printing them, but yeah, we're not trimming it. Here we trimmed it. Again, like where is the line? We are declaring the line here. So this is basically string, right? And then since it's a string, we can call trim space on it. Okay. Uh, okay. Trim space is a function, it's not a method. So basically we need to pass this string to the trim space function. I'll do the short statement, syntax. Cool. Okay, that's pretty much it. Now the read line now reads the file and gives back the line. So we now know how to kind of can process each line. Also, the data we receive, the string we receive is already like trimmed. So we don't need to do extra stuff. We could, return untrimmed data, but I don't really want to. I don't know any like use case where I want untrimmed data. I'm gonna end it here, and I will ask ChatGPT to write me notes on how to use buff.io reader read or use reader read string and read method from buff.io new read. Read lines using buff.io and read string read methods. Okay, create me notes on using scanner, OS scanner or something. Is buff scanner, I think. Buff scanner. Read lines using buff.io scanner. All right, that's pretty much it. We saw to read by a file line by line, read large files in chunks and buffers, check if file exists before reading. Of course, we forgot that. should be easy, right? How do we know if a file exists? How? Basic file exist check. Simplest way is OS_stat. OS_stat returns error. So basically, if the error is nil, file exists. Is not exist, error. So is not exist takes a error, and it's gonna be true, I guess, if it doesn't exist. OS_stat tries to get file info and returns file info object and error. We ignore file info here, possible outcomes. File exists. If file exists, error is nil. File missing, then we check for is not exist. We don't know like what type of value we get when the file doesn't exist. So we need to use this function. Permission denied, broken path, weird file system error. So reusable utility function. So we can check if the error is equal to nil. So if it's nil, then we know if file exists. If it's not nil, so file exists is false, then file doesn't exist. File does not exist or something. Better version, handle weird errors properly. If error is nil, return true nil, boolean error nil. If it's not exist, return false nil. Is not exist. Okay. True means it exists, false means it doesn't exist. So here does not exist. So weird cases, we handle every cases. OS_stat checks everything in path, exist, file, directory. If you specifically want file only, there are so many things we need to check. I think I'm gonna continue this in next video.